We talked about the graphic designer Milton Glaser, and we spoke about the fact that he was a famous graphic designer that created lots of marketing campaigns that you've probably seen before. One of his most recognizable pieces of work is the I Heart New York logo. He also was responsible for a lot of band posters or album covers, and one that he's really famous for is a poster for Bob Dylan. He uses a silhouette or a black outline and black shapes with other brightly colored organic shapes. So, why is this important to us now? Well, his work has been looked at and inspired other graphic designers and other artists. An example of that is the campaign for the iPod. So the iPod came out in the early 2000s. Now you listen to music on your phone or Spotify. There are free streaming sites that you can listen to it. But before, music was a kind of big commodity, and having a way to easily listen to it was really important. Apple put out this product called an iPod, and you can see actually how thick the iPods were, like how big and chunky they were. And they went through a couple of different phases of getting cooler and thinner and better working and holding more songs. But along the way, Apple came out with an ad campaign for the iPod that used silhouettes with brightly colored backgrounds, which were sort of a callback to Milton Glaser's Bob Dylan poster. So today, what we're going to do is I've taken the background out behind the dancer, and you're going to create your own background inspired by Milton Glaser instead of just a solid background, and I'm going to show you how to make it on Photoshop. We're also going to work with layers today and understanding how layers work in Photoshop. So I'm going to ask that you go ahead and download from Schoology one of the dancers. I gave you four different options. And what I've done is I've set up your work for you. I've set up your layers already for you. So you should, if you look at your panels on the right-hand side, you should see that you have a background layer, a layer that says layer 1, and a layer that says dancer. On the right-hand side of this, you'll notice there are two little lock symbols. The background layer is locked and the dancer is locked as well. And the reason for that is I don't want you to have to worry about sliding those things around. Now, in order to work on a layer, I need to first select it. So I know that layer 1 is selected because it's kind of a lighter gray than the other two layers. And then from here, I can use my selection tools to make a selection of the area. We learned how to use our paint bucket tool and select a color to fill that area in. Because it's still selected, I can move it around. And you'll notice that as I move it, it's always going to be behind the dancer. And the reason for that is because of the order of the layers. If I go ahead and deselect this, and I reorder the layers, and I can do that just by clicking and sliding them, now that circle or oval is on top of the dancer. So if we want a background for the dancer, we want to keep that layer in between the background and the dancer layer. So from here, I can use the lasso tool and make organic shapes. I can continue to make ovals or rectangles or any shape that inspires you. I want you to almost listen to the music in your head and see if you can't imagine what this dancer is listening to. When you're finished, you're going to save it as a JPEG. So you're going to go up to File, Save. I'm going to save as because I've already saved it as something. I always ask that you use your first name, underscore, and then whatever the project title is. So this is iPod Dancer. And we're going to save it as a Photoshop file first. So you'll see the format says Photoshop. I'm going to change this to save it to my desktop, and I'll press save. Now I want to save a JPEG version, a version that's much easier to look at even if you don't have Photoshop. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to change the format to JPEG. And I'm going to press Save. And I get another dialog box that I'm going to keep just the way it is and press OK. If I look at my desktop now, I have two different versions of the work I just created. One has a .jpg and one has a .psd. The JPG is my JPEG. This is the one you're going to upload and submit to Schoology. The .psd is the one that you could go back into and continue working on. I can't wait to see what you create.